Hi everyone, we are back with Brian Parker and Kailuhu to continue our awesome, amazing project, the OpenAI project. And just so people know, uh, we are in the last stages of developing an orchestration service. And once this orchestration service is done, we're gonna kind of still putting on pending, clients exposure layers, and then hopefully throughout the weekend, we'll be able to kind of get all of these, kind of merged in. Maybe by Monday we'll see how things go. Brian has been working tirelessly, to make sure that we have, what we need on the RESTful sense part. This is true innovation. Innovation takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort there. Um, Okay, with that being said, let's get started. So Kailu, we're gonna need to finish the other pieces, the exceptions that are coming out of these orchestration service. So I'm just gonna go here and I'm gonna share my screen here. I'm gonna start. Here you go. And yeah, like I said, fine tuning is gonna be the hardest one. Once we're done with fine tuning, not even fine tuning itself, it's just the files and all that. Muhammad Ali used to say, I don't do they said that when do you keep training? When do you stop? He said, well, do you stop when it starts to hurt? He's like, no, when it starts to hurt, that's where it counts, right? That's the same thing with software, right? When you're starting to kind of really, really think really hard about certain problems, that means your brain is expanding and you're growing in a good way. Okay, so let's see here. So on the orchestration, I'm kind of doing a synchronization here real quick just to make sure. And let's see here. Let me run all the tests here just to know where's our heads from our toes. Here we go. Good. And then what I want to do here is just basically go and see what kind of exceptions. So we did finish all the validations, K, right? We took care of, I think this says object
Yes,
required. This is on the
you have
request.
the what's it called the string
Oh yeah, that's
null
right.
empty.
That's right. So inside, so you have the AI file, the request, and then the name. That's what we want, right? So we want that name, to be validated, right? So let's go back to this guy here. And then I want to say, let's see, yeah, there you go. So something like, here you go. And let's do this. Fact, public, async task should throw validation exception if request is invalid async. Here you go. So that's that guy. Okay. And then let's write some tests here. So given, when, then, and then I need a theory in here. This theory will take theory data theory inline data, right? So I have null, empty, or white space. All of these are invalid names. And then in here, I'm gonna go ahead and say string invalid name, right? So here is AI file, random AI file, create random AI file, and then AI file invalid AI file from random AI file. And then what I want to do is to go and say, well, this invalid AI file dot request dot name is invalid name. So what I expect is invalid AI file orchestration validate orchestration exception, new invalid AI file orchestration exception, and inside that guy, I'm going to go and say valid AI file orchestration exception. And then I'm going to add data to this guy. And the data that we want to add is basically the name of AI file request name. There you go, and that's the key. And then the value here is value is required. Okay, and then we want to go and say expected AI file orchestration validation exception. New AI file orchestration validation exception.
Just wondering if we should be passing in a string without an extension as well.
A string with the extension.
Without an extension, like that's an invalid file name.
Oh,
Like,
this guy here?
like nothing. No, no, no. Up in your data set, you're
Uh-huh.
passing it. Yeah, up. Yeah. I'm just wondering if you got a null, you got an empty string, you got a string that's just spaces in
Mm-hmm.
your inline data. I'm just wondering if we should have just a string with no extension.
Do we care? Is it
Oh,
invalid?
yes.
It will be a
But
dependency validation. It will be validated on the API, not us. We're just
yep.
saying what's the bare minimum structural validation.
No worries. Okay, because I know they have a requirement. They take the extension and validate against the file
That's
based on.
true.
Yep.
That's right. And we're
Mm,
gonna let them validate that, and we will catch it as a dependency validation exception.
yep. No worries.
Unless, I don't know, Kailu, what do you think? Am I going in the wrong direction? So what Brian is saying is that, the file name needs to have an extension, otherwise it'll fail, right? And that's a good argument, by the way. Like Brian, sometimes we will do the validation that the API is doing when it's obvious, so we don't have to pay for the trip because you're going to pay for that API call. The library is supposed to protect people from wasting their money. So this validation is going to block it before they go and send the request and then get charged for an
Hmm.
API call. So, okay, so this test would do a structural validation, and then we would need to write another test that says the logical validation is that this value needs to have an extension, even if it had a structural value in it. So there's a structure value, which is that it has a value inside of it, and then we basically go back and say, okay, this is a file that needs to have an extension of some kind,
Hmm.
and I'm assuming the extension must be JSON-L, right?
Oh, it depends. I think it looks at the extension and depending on the extension, validates the file based on it. So I'm not sure.
Mm.
There may be other
So
types.
so they have their own logic there. Okay, okay, let's just hold off on it. And if that's the case, they have their own thing going on there. We'll hold off on that. Um, okay, so I'm gonna take this piece. I'm gonna throw this piece right here. Given when then, that looks right. And then I'm gonna run my tests here. Here we go. Where's the Uzbek guy? What happened to him? He fell asleep? Okay, so here we go. And then the value here. So the failure here basically is basically I expected you to throw this exception, but no exception was thrown. All right, Kay, take this one. That's a fail. Go crazy. Okay.
So when's Elon Musk launching his big starship?
What? What did you just say? What? You just said a bunch of words. I didn't even catch any of that. What did you say?
Elon Musk is launching his huge rocket today or tomorrow, isn't he? His
He's
starship.
he's he's always launching something. Like a couple of days ago, he said, I'm gonna start my own AI company, right? But then, a couple of weeks before that, he said we need to stop all AI development.
He wanted to catch up.
He was like, "Hey guys, wait for me. How do I stop all these people?" And then I think people said he's developing something called Truth GPT or something like that. He's just all over the place. He's way over the place. I wish he just stayed focused on making humanity interplanetary species. that would have been, a good goal to endeavor. Like how much Twitter burn out of his time and effort. I can only imagine. So what does Diogo say is they don't validate the extension. As long as the stream content is JSON-L, you can send the file name without an extension or even with something like JPEG. Okay, that's good then. All right. If that's the case, then thank you, Diogo. I think that's a very important insight. Okay, if that's the case, I think we should be okay.
Yep.
Okay. Here we go.
Looks like his launch has been pushed back to the 20th.
He also he that's the thing, kind of he overpromises and underdelivers, and that's very dangerous in the tech industry. Like he told people years ago, that he's gonna have this Cybertruck. No truck yet. We saw some pictures, and we saw a demo, but that's all that we saw. He said to people, "I'm gonna create robots," right? And we saw a really, really crappy demo, and that's it. He said, I'm gonna do microchips in people's brains, and I'm gonna do Neuralink, and then just so there's a bunch of Elon Musk is basically every engineer out there. Spin up 50 projects on GitHub, right? And they want to finish up all 50 of them all at the same time, and none of them get done. None of them get done, right? So he's just a what a software engineer would be like for the most part if you give them, you know, 40, 50, $100 billion and you told them, "Hey, go crazy." Right? Yeah, he will do these things. I wish he focuses on making humanity interplanetary species. It's it's a very good goal. It's an amazing goal.
It's actually saying it's live in 7 hours. Sorry. I want to watch it. It's really,
You want to see the launch happen?
yeah, that's going to be huge.
You know what's funny? I don't follow Elon Musk on Twitter, but somehow his posts still come front and center.
Yeah, wonder why.
I wonder why. Why does that happen? I guess we'll never know. Yeah, there you go. Circuit breaker. Perfect. Perfect. Yes. Thank you, Kay. Cool. Beautiful. Now we just need to handle the exceptions, Kay. So let's go. So Brian, have I ever told you about Jython?
No.
So a while back, a bunch of engineers, and that was back when I was like probably 18, 19 years old. That's when I learned about it. a bunch of people wanted to write Python code that runs on the JVM
Hmm.
so they
Yeah.
can so they can have Python and Java talk to each other. That was back when Java was like in its heyday, like everyone's writing Java. Schools, universities, everywhere, right? So they went ahead and developed Jython. And then someone on the .NET camp, there was always the Java camp and the .NET camp, and which is funny because the people that developed C Sharp .NET are all Java people. They all came from Java background. They were like, they just decided, like the Lutheran Church, they just decided to be their own thing, you know. And one of the one of the things that they did on that at that time, they developed Iron Python. And Iron Python is .NET that talks to Python. So you can write Python code that runs on .NET,
Mhm.
right? And then a lot of these kind of merges, between frameworks and programming languages kind of started to emerge from there, right? It became very, very interesting to see how things evolved there. I love the history of our industry, like how where we came from, where we're headed, and how these things all kind of, came together. It was very, very interesting. Yeah, I was looking at Amazon libraries today to see how I can do the same provisioning that I do with C Sharp in Amazon, and their NuGet packages just needs a little bit more studying and focus. It's very different. You create an EC2 instance with SQS and stuff like that. It's just very, very interesting world. How things get structured in Amazon, AWS.
It's funny how you get used to one way, and when you go to another place, it seems so foreign. But fundamentally, they're the same.
They're the same. That's why I like the idea of SPAL. I don't want people to like see the effort that it takes a developer. Like let's say you're in a consulting firm, right? And you don't have an option to spin up in Azure and you're gonna have to spin up in AWS or Google Cloud or whatever the case may be, right? Now you do have the fundamentals. You know that you need a component that hosts your ASP.NET Core API. You know that you have a component that needs to be a queue. You need to have storage. But then all these different brands and naming conventions and all that gets in your way and slows you down. So what SPAL does, just for the people watching that don't know what SPAL is, it's called Standardized Provider Abstraction Library. It's an idea where you have multiple providers and all these providers implement and adhere to a particular interface, and then you're only communicating with that interface, and it doesn't matter underneath whether it's going to take you to Azure or AWS or Google Cloud or Alibaba Cloud. Doesn't matter what the cloud is, because it's pretty much the same. What's more lovely about it is that the exceptions are also the same. Like it takes their foreign external exceptions and map it to the closest, most similar one to it. I think that's a big leap in the standard community. I think it's a big leap in our thought process, how we develop our systems. I still think, Christo and I haven't, we didn't say all that can be said and do all that can be done to abstract service buses and queues and stuff like that. But we'll get back to it. I'm just a little bit happy with the AI stuff for now, but then we're gonna have to eventually go back to our R&D department. This is what I call Christo, our R&D department. He will just sit there and kind of theorize things and tell me, okay, how do we do this part or that part? You know, um, yeah, we have a bunch of really smart people. I'd like to consider you one of them as well, Brian. Really smart people that will go dig into things and kind of get. This is what I noticed about our industry. We have heavy lifters, hulks, people that will take on and boom, smash like 1,000 lines of code. But these 1,000 lines of code are built on top of a lot of research. A lot of R&D went into every single piece into how we develop our software and how the code is being written. And because of that, this is where,
Sometimes
the
that thousand lines of code is 20,000 lines of POCs.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's
Mm,
very true. In
mm,
order for you to write one proper line of code, you have to kind of develop and do like 1,000, 10,000. It's true. It's very true. I
mm.
agree with you 100%. Now, just something for you
Sometimes,
to,
sometimes, sometimes I write things that work like 4 or 5 different ways, and
yep,
it's just a matter of like putting something in the center of a room and just standing there and looking at it from all these different angles
yep,
and working out which one's the best.
yep. This whole, multi-part form, that's an example of it. It's not that we don't know how. The
Mm.
problem is that we know how.
It was.
The biggest problem is that we know how. Like, some days I wish I could just be like one of these, kind of, quality price kind of engineers. You get only as much quality as much as you pay, right? And just be like, hey man, we got it figured it out. The world is not gonna stop if I just pass in a multi-part form. Who cares, right? It's just not me. I don't play this way. This is, I used to say, the standard has higher value, but now I'm saying this is our life's work as a community. Day and night. Can you believe, like, if you scroll back into that community, you could go back 2 years, 2 years of research, arguments, pickering, just going at
dark,
each other's necks.
dark humor.
Yeah, dark, dark, very dark humor. Bans, timeouts, just
Did you give Wardy a timeout last night?
I literally gave him a timeout. He started talking about some, inappropriate things, and I was like, "Okay, dude, you need to chill out. Goodbye," and he was like, "Okay, that's fair. Fine."
He knew he stepped the line.
I usually say that, don't you have your own server? Why don't you go play with your own server? And it's like, no, but this one is fun. This is where I get to argue with people. It's like, oh my God. Remember that guy, Candy? I kicked him out of the server. He went to Paul's server. And Paul is telling him, read the standard. Read the standard. I was like, you guys are just perfect for each other. Just sit there and go at each other all day
Uh,
long. I started to worry about Paul, like he was consuming way too much time, and Paul doesn't stop. Like Paul will keep responding, responding, responding. I was like, gosh, okay, Paul, all right, he's all yours. Have him, crazy world. Okay, Kay, is that guy out? Cool. We'll give Brian
Yeah.
a break today. I'll take it. Sorry, Brian, it's too easy. I just need to take it, every now and then here. So let's pull this in. Is that the dependency validation? Let's take this. Here we go. Okay, and that's 114. That's good, right on the dot. If you go to these guys, go to definition. Yeah, it won't let me. It's still trying to understand. There you go. So this is validation and dependency validation. Cool. Cool, bro. Let's go back here. Here is my upload file. Try catch. Let's do a little bit of Acrobat in here. Catch, copy, throw, lowercase, copy, and then throw, new, AI file, orchestration, dependency, validation, exception, like this, and we're done. That should take care of it. Control minus, take me back to the tests. Give me the run. Come on. What? Did it fail? Let's see here. Why did that fail? You threw the exception on upload file. Yeah, and then you went and said that's my dependency. Oh, the inner exception. There you go. Okay, cool. My bad. Sorry. Let's see if I can do something that kind of click, click, click. There you go. Inner exception as exception. Right? And then I do this. And then we run this guy again. And here is pass. Okay, cool. Now my turn. I'll take all of this and I'll say should throw dependency exception. So these will be all the dependency exceptions which don't exist yet. And I'm going to take all of that and then I can take this one out, and I can take this one out. So file, okay, well, dependency comes before, and dependency comes before this. Cool. And that will be dependency exception. So these are all the dependency exceptions that can come out of our orchestration service, which means that we need a dependency exception in here. Here we go. AI orchestration dependency exception. AI file orchestration. Yeah. So that's this guy. And then let's take this out. And the rest is just normal. Cool. Let's do that. So on the model side, under orchestrations, under exceptions, here is this. Create the exception. Inherit. Make that baby public. Like this. CTOR. Here we go. CTOR. Exception. Inner exception. Base. Message. AI file dependency error occurred contact support. And here's your inner exception. Great, great. Take that out. Control KD, Control KE. Perfect. Let's go back to the test. This is good. All right, K. Take it home. This is AI file. AI file should be called first since you're going to be throwing the exception. Here. Here's a fail. All right, sir. Take it home.
Right.
There we go. Ah, you got your own way. I like it. Nice. Okay, okay. I'm still torn out a little bit, Brian, about should validation exceptions at the orchestration level come before? No, validation should always come first. But dependency validation versus dependency, I think dependency should come first before dependency validation because if you get a SQL error, it won't give you the. Are you on mute? Are you saying something?
Wouldn't dependency be the very first one then?
Well, we do the validations before we call any dependency.
Fair enough. Yep, true.
So that's validation. And then you try to contact the database, so you are likely to fail
That's your
the
dependency.
connection. So
Yeah.
that's a dependency. And then when you establish the connection, then the dependency validation comes in. And when that passes, a service error may occur. Some people even argued with me, said the service error could trump all of them because you could have a memory leakage before you even start the routine. But the one thing that I know for certain is that we certainly need to put or consider putting um, the the dependency exceptions first before dependency validations. So in a way, I mean we're doing it in a way. We basically throw authorization exceptions, we throw URL not found exceptions before we handle a bad request exception or HTTP response exception, right? Because that's the progression of thing based on which areas are you touching and which areas are very likely to or
Mm.
more likely it's sequentially to have issues, right?
Yeah, at runtime, definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Nice. So it will be validation, dependency validation, and then service exception. That makes sense. Yeah. The one thing you never can find an answer for is what happens after you send the request. The server is in good shape, but someone wrote shitty software that is throwing 500, right? It's throwing 500 exception. It's trying to tell you it's a validation exception, but it's throwing 500 exception, right? So it's very interesting.
I was thinking about this the other day. You could write all the good, really good stuff and have really good exception handling. Then somebody wraps it up in their program, and then it's all lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
500. You got all that effort, 500.
Okay, let me run this idea by you as well. Well, Kailu's writing this. Imagine this. Let's see if you would entertain an idea like this. Imagine that instead of building brokers, for instance, let's say you have an API and a UI, and the UI wants to talk to the API. So you're basically going and saying, this is my public class student service. That's your student service. And then on top of that, you're adding something that says external. And what external means, it means that this guy is actually making an API call to a student's API. So the service looks like a service, but it's actually underneath. It doesn't belong in your system. It's actually an external call. What do you think about that idea? So it automatically kind of goes and says, okay, you have a public async value task, student, add student async. Oh, watch Paul lose his mind over this. Student, yep, and then you're basically doing some implementation here. It doesn't matter, right? And in this implementation, you're basically saying, oh, by the way, this method here represents a external, and you're basically going and saying, this is a post to API/students. No brokers.
Mm. You're defining the broker with the all the attributes.
Mm-hmm. Two problems with this. How the heck do you test that? That's just one part. And then number two, am I bringing people back to SOAP XML? Do you remember?
Mm. Can you
Do you
do this in
remember that?
all? Can you do this in all languages? Is it something we can only do in C#?
That's another thing, right?
Mm.
And then is our services actually representative of whatever anymore? Because what's going to happen here is that you're basically saying this is an external API call, right? And then you're going to have to go and do something in here. What are you going to do in here? I don't know yet. By the way, just so you understand, I'm just sitting binding my own business, and then ideas like these just hit my brain. Like they just happen, right? Why am I doing this? Is because one of the things that makes sense to me to do something like this is to basically go and say, um, in fact, actually, to be honest with you, Brian, like based on certain terminology, we can get rid of this and this completely, and we can basically go and say this guy implements external API service. That's another part, right? So there's injection and composition, inheritance and composition. But still, the idea here is to basically go and say, if one day we decide to put a broker behind this, fine. If one day we decide not to put a broker behind this, like an external broker, maybe a storage broker, the service structure doesn't change at all.
Mm.
Of course, this is a crazy idea, but you also like crazy ideas, so I thought I'd run it by you. Okay, what do you think about this?
You made him think about code at the same time as you were presenting.
Mm.
Makes it hard.
So basically, you don't care about APIs anymore. All you care about is that you have this component, and whether it's talking to an API or local storage or talking to another service, it doesn't matter. Just a thought. Something that I was thinking about.
Structurally, it looks okay to me.
Structurally is okay. Okay.
I thought of doing something similar with an interface, but I had to use one attribute just to define where the endpoint was.
the other crazy idea that I wanted to tell you about. Okay, Kailu, that service is done. Okay. So the other idea that I wanted to tell you about, we probably should have also um, we should have SPAL for Blazor components. So you can switch the entire UI from Sync Fusion to Telerik to Blazorize to Mud Blazor without having to change any of the way you already implemented your own components.
Hmm.
See the opportunities there?
I when I first got involved with Blazor, one
Mm.
of the things I loved about WPF, believe it or not, was the MVVM
Yeah, and the
approach.
MVVM. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that. Mm.
yeah. But I was one of those nutters that went real pure. Like I could just literally have one line of code and it would throw out the whole screen.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. So
So,
I was thinking about doing something similar with Blazor, and that would sort of allow that to happen because the model defines the um, the end object.
mm, interesting. I feel like there's still, more things that can be done in Blazor in terms of allowing the abstraction and all that, but I don't know yet. There you go. This is a pass. I just want to make sure that we have our registrations in place. So on the client side, on OpenAI, do we have all the services that we need? Client, AI model service, add transient, AI, what did you call it? Local file service as local file service. And then add transient AI file service. That's AI file service. And then add transient AI file orchestration service. That's AI file orchestration service. And then we also want to, at the broker level, so these are the brokers. We have the file broker, add transient. Oh, that's OpenAI file broker. Yeah, we should be good here. So this is me basically saying configs register AI file orchestration foundation services. Okay, so that puts also this PR in a ready state. We are going to be offline tomorrow and throughout the weekend. So hopefully by then we should have, a solution for our API integration, and that's okay. I'd rather be right than fast. That's always the case. And then all of these PRs will be able to merge. So we'll have the foundation upload file, remove file by ID, orchestration, and then all the other things will start just kind of piling up real fast, because of all of these little things waiting, to be merged in.
Yep. What's our external file request look like? I think we're still missing file name off that.
Oh, let's take a look. Well, external file request on,
The
let's go
AI
to the
file.
foundation. If I go to files changed, if I go into, let's see here, AI file. Oh, external AI file. So it's the
Yeah.
external file. Let's take a look. I know we didn't merge anything yet, anything related to this. So let me open up the viewer, the GitHub viewer, and just look at what that looks like. Here we go. So here's what I see. External file. This has been deleted, so it must have been moved somewhere else. So these are AI files. Oh,
External.
Oh my God, why did people move it under here? That's not the right place.
Yeah. See, we've only got two elements there. We need the third, the file name.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. We need to update that part. But luckily,
A-
because it's all kind of
and switch over to the attributes, of course. Yeah.
correct.
Yep.
Correct. We're gonna have to use our own attributes for this one. Absolutely. By the way, just so you know, we're not really the only ones doing that. Like if you go like, again, that's what I was researching today. If you go into, let me show you this. AWS AC2. Let me just show you something crazy. That's what I've been kind of playing with today. And if you go to C sharp, where's their C sharp stuff? Hold on, I think I have the POC here somewhere. Yeah, watch this. So check this out. If you look, we're not really, kind of going away from existing ideas that people use. There is a way where you basically go on your model. These are their instances and all that kind of good stuff. And then there is, if I go inside the instance type, look, do you see this?
Mm,
GSII class. They have their own thing, right? And if you go inside this guy, they have their own way of kind of processing. So we're not really, it's at the end of the day, it's Newton soft JSON, and then they have their own thing. So that's just how these things are operating. So it's not that bad. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not that bad to have our own kind of parameters.
yep.
You know, people do it all the time. Not that Amazon is the way to go when you're looking at proper coding conventions or any of that. You should see some of the products that they have. They have a thing called Code Commit. It's supposed to be their version of GitHub. It's absolute trash, pure trash. So anyway, but I digress. Uh, thank you all for joining us today. This is really great, and let's see if we can pick this up Monday night. What do you think about that, Brian? Monday
Be
night?
good. Yeah, easy. Done now.
Okay. Okay,
You
just a
send it.
reminder that Thursday and Friday tomorrow is completely offline, and then we'll pick up Monday. Cool.
Sam. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all. Take care.